Hey there, I am DPadGamer, and I'd like to welcome you to a casual review of Metroid Dread by me, a casual. It's like a double meaning kind of thing. I consider myself a casual because while I quite like the Metroid Prime games, my experience with the 2D ones is limited to Super Metroid and like faint memories of Metroid Fusion. I also just sort of suck at 2D games, and I saw the game over screen a lot, so that's where I'm at going into this review. That said, here's a summary of my thoughts on the game before we jump into spoilers. I quite liked it. It took me a while to finally feel comfortable with the controls, but once I did, it felt quite good to play. Visually, the game looks great. None of the music stands out in my memory in particular, but it all fit the atmosphere, which is good. Overall, it took me about 10 hours to beat, while collecting 100% of the items on my first playthrough, which feels a tad short. That said, there are some minor incentives for a second or more playthroughs, so you could get more mileage out of this game if you wanted to. I don't do numbered scores, but this is a pretty good game in my opinion. With that out of the way, from here on I will be spoiling stuff, so continue at your own risk. First off, in the opening we're given a quick recap of the events of the series thus far, aka the previous games, which is appreciated because it helps players like myself get up to speed with the story while also kicking off the game's general spooky atmosphere. The exposition for this game then tells us that footage of an X-Parasite in the wild was received, and the super advanced exploratory robots sent to investigate have mysteriously stopped responding. This, along with the initial confrontation with the mysterious Chozo warrior, locks in the setup for the game. We're stranded on a planet that we barely know, having lost most of our abilities, as per usual, and there are 3 potential threats to worry about. Aside from one detail that I will discuss later, it's all conveyed pretty succinctly, so overall I think it's pretty well done. Throughout the game we get updates via Adam, our artificial intelligence assistant, co-pilot. I don't really know what his role is specifically. Either way, he's fully voice acted, which I think was really nice, and Adam gives both in-universe game advice and explanations, as well as just general guidance throughout the game, which I think helped tie it all together. Along with that, I really like the reveal at the end that Ravenbeak was actually the one behind the Adam messages from the start, tricking us into doing what he wanted the whole time. If you look back,
"We are lost assets with care, lady. Try to connect to the facility's network when you reach the bottom. That way, get in contact. Any objections, lady?" So, you've accessed the network station. Well done, Samus.
I think I noticed that something was off here when I was playing, but it didn't really click until after looking back, having known the reveal, which I think makes it a pretty good twist. I like the Emmys. I do wish that there was a bit more to distinguish them from each other aside from color and occasional ability, but on their own, they're all really creepy and threatening. I like that their zones have dim, flickering lighting, some different music, and generally are unsettling. I think it's really smart that once cornered, you get 2 small chances to escape using a counter. If you're talented, lucky, or you just practice a bunch to get the timing down, you can stun and escape them. If not, you witness Samus trying and failing to fight off this uncaring drone before dying. Much like with the Adam's communications, our understanding of the Emmys changed by the end. We learn that Ravenbeak has taken control of them because he ordered them to hunt down Samus and extract her Metroid DNA. This might be sort of silly, but it sort of reminds me of the animatronics as we understood them from FNAF 1. The reason being that in that game, the animatronics just wanted to stuff you into a suit filled with electronics and metal support beams because they think you are a animatronic skeleton without a suit. So killing you is just a sort of unfortunate result. In the same way, they just want your DNA. It sucks that you have to die for it. Switching gears a bit, let's talk about the controls. Overall, I think the game controlled quite well. Aiming, jumping, sliding, ball form, it all felt responsive and I don't really know how to put it, but I never felt like the game's controls were at fault when I died, just my own execution, you know? That said, I was not a huge fan of the wall jumping because it felt like it was very inconsistent. One of the few things that stuck with me from Super Metroid is its wall jumping. Going into this game, I kept trying to wall jump by tapping away from the wall and then jumping, which seemed to work, but only sometimes, and it just felt wrong. Turns out, I was the one that was wrong. I was just overthinking things. Wall jumping in this game is extremely simple. You just move into the wall, press jump. That's it. Speaking of jumps, I like that you can just jump with the ball by default. I'm so used to Prime's ball form requiring bomb boost for jumps, and I had to keep reminding myself that was not the case. As for abilities, I liked pretty much all of them. The grappling hook felt pretty good, the storm missiles were really cool, the power bombs were amazing, though I wish they actually worked in boss battles, and speed boosting slash like shine sparking made me feel like a deadlier version of Sonic the Hedgehog in a good way. I have no clue if phase shifting is in the other games, which lets you sort of quick dodge around, but I love it, and I would love to see it in future games because it felt like it added a lot of mobility to boss fights and overworld travel. The only ability I feel conflicted on is the invisibility. I think the invisibility is cool and it works well in the context of the Emmy zones and adds to the general spookiness, but outside of that, it feels wrong to use. Like, you move slow enough and you can barely jump while invisible to the point that using it to sneak past small enemies that are just scattered throughout the world seems harder than actually just taking them out with weapons. The only thing I would have wanted to sneak past were bosses and elite enemies, which can't be skipped anyways, so I feel like it could have used maybe an upgrade later on to make it more mobile or something more, I don't know. Now, here are my thoughts on the overall playthrough experience, which I do think is pretty good, but there are some nuances. In this game, you have your usual save rooms, but there are also numerous checkpoints. I actually quite appreciated this because the game is very hard, and there are a lot of things like the Emmy stabbing you in the face that are do or die, literally. And with how much I died, it would have really sucked to run back to the save point. I personally believe that if you die and you respawn to the save point and the run back to where you died isn't accomplishing anything new or teaching you anything new, which it usually isn't, I think that's just pointless. So I like the checkpoints. I did get into some spots where I felt like the checkpoint system left me sort of stranded because I was at low health and low ammo, and in one direction was a boss fight that kept killing me, and in the other direction was enemies that kept killing me. But it turns out that at literally any points you can go to the system settings, pause menu, and reload from your save station, so that's another thing where it's not actually an issue, which I appreciate. Another important thing to know, which might be more of a issue for some, is that the game is pretty linear. I know that you can apparently like sequence break some stuff. For the most part, however, I felt that the game was pretty railroady, with things really only opening up near the end of the game once I had all of the main abilities. That said, this could also be a bit of a me issue because it's possible I could have backtracked more if I had known that once you find one of each of the color teleporters, they all become connected, letting you teleport between them at will. Speaking of backtracking, the game does a pretty good job of helping you go for 100% without making it feel too obtuse or frustrating. On the map, there will be white blinking areas that depict an item hiding within. This only seems to activate or happen like for rooms that have been otherwise fully explored, so it didn't really spoil anything, and I still had to look very closely on the map and explore every darkened area to find all of the side areas that I would have never seen otherwise. I also quite like the scan ability that reveals hidden blocks that you get pretty late in the game, like the second or third to last ability. It comes after you get the ability to shoot through objects with the wave beam, so it didn't feel like it ruined my collecting experience, rather just sort of helping me along. When going around and 100%ing, I did get to encounter all of the game's little puzzles for some of the collectibles, and some of them were legitimately challenging and sort of scratched my brain a bit. My only big issue, literally the only issue I had with collectibles, is that until I looked it up, and this was being one of the only times I looked up anything for a collectible, I did not know that you could actually wall jump while speed boosting. The game has a lot of useful tips on the loading screen, but I don't recall the game ever telling me that. Also, I'm not sure where else to mention this, but I quite like the various glimpses of the world beyond that we get at times. I'm talking about some of the external areas around the trains, the edge of the map, and so on. There's a lot more to the world in a side-scrolling game, and I like when they show it, which is what they've done here. Now let's finish things off with the story. My only issue with the story is the opening. I get that they were trying to make it feel mysterious and jarring, like you go from heading to the planet and then you suddenly wake up having lost your memories and abilities, but then you immediately flash back to Samus heading down the elevator getting jumped by spooky McRavenbeak, and then we're back to the present again. It was so close together, it felt just sort of sloppy, but everything else in the game worked quite well. All of the cutscenes served a purpose and were pretty engaging. Also, the mid-battle sequences that played out if you managed to counter at the right time during boss fights were really, really cool. And also, I appreciated that they were actually, they also served a purpose because you were able to deal a bunch of free damage as a reward for your skill or luck. Also, I just really loved how Samus was portrayed in this game without pretty much any dialogue. In just about every encounter, she is a badass. Her immediate reaction to a new unknown threat was to take action. When Kraid shows up for whatever reason, she doesn't even flinch, she just charges up and blasts him with no hesitation. Near the end, when Ravenbeak reveals that he was behind all the Adam updates throughout the game, she straight up demolishes the room with, almost no hesitation. Which made me legitimately laugh out loud. Throughout the whole game, she felt like a badass, expert bounty hunter, capable of overcoming every obstacle, and even when she can't, she's gonna try till she dies, which is awesome. I should say, she does actually talk once in the game while meeting Quiet Robe for the first and last time. That did catch me off guard, but it felt totally in line with the character because she spoke fluent Chozo, so she's smart, she seemed confident, and she was to the point. I think it's all good stuff. Now that I'm seeing Quiet Robe again, I'm kind of realizing that him and Ravenbeak essentially are that one bird meme. Am I wrong? Also, I really like Ravenbeak, especially how he acts in the final boss fight cutscene / battle. He definitely has an ego, describing himself as a super cool strong warrior via the Adam updates, but he's also pretty menacing in battle. He moves with speed and strength, but then leaves himself open and even offers Samus a seemingly free counter mid-fight. He's very cocky. When he's choking Samus out in the post-battle cutscene, he's super smug, saying that, "Did you truly believe you could defeat me? You overestimate yourself." Perhaps he's like a bog standard villain, but I think he played his role well, and it felt really good when Samus went berserk, and it was totally justified in character and just so cool. I thought the ending escape sequence was cool enough, and the full Metroid suit looked amazing. In general, I have no clue what comes next for the series, but if it builds off of this game in terms of gameplay and story and overall feel, I am definitely excited. So I think this game gets a recommendation from me. If everything you've heard sounds good, then perhaps you'll like the game too. But yeah, that's about it. That's my casual review of Metroid Dread. Thank you so much for watching. Big thanks to my channel members for their support, with a galaxy-sized thanks to Pseudonymous, Achilles Rhodes, and Captain Crayfish for being super fans. If you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, maybe subscribe? I almost never make reviews, so please do let me know in the comments below if you would like to see more of those in the future. That's about it for this video. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.